5th Members Matters meeting? I think so. This is a new initiative we started this year, and we've really enjoyed doing it. The first thing I'd like to do is kind of take roll, kind of make introductions, so we can go through. We're here, system staff are here, missing Leslie at the office, but the rest of the system staff is here in Olney, so we can introduce people who are here in Olney, and then I'm going to kind of go down the list from L2 and see who's out there in Zoom land. So I'm Ellen, I'm the Membership and Grants Director at Illinois Heartland.
Hi, I'm Susan Palmer. I'm the Operations Director here at Illinois Heartland.
Hi, I'm Jody Travelstead. I'm from North City Public Library.
Hi, I'm Denise Carnes. I'm the Director from North City Public Library.
I'm Felicia Murray. I'm the Director at El Dorado Memorial Library.
I'm Roxana Binky. I'm the Director at Albion Public Library.
I'm Judy Whitaker, Director at Olney Public Library.
Donna Corey, Director at Flora Public Library.
Chris Dowdy, Shared Director at IHLS.
So that's the wild and crazy group here in Olney. Mary Brewster from Bethalto, are you here today? Okay, how about Twilla Kuhn from Mount Carmel? Okay, Noel Gaines from Maryville, you're here, I believe. Troy told me you were here. Okay, Kimberly Gertz from Loda Township Library. Hi, Kimberly. I see Brenda Gilpatrick. You want to wave at us, Brenda?
Hi.
Okay. Janet Howard at Carlinville. Okay. Susan McKinney?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, how about Bobby Perryman?
Hello.
Hi, Bobby. Linda Richter from Trenton Public Library. Okay. Kathleen Rister from Groff Memorial Library. Kathleen, are you with us? Kathleen is brand new to the job, so she might be brand new to Zoom as well. Richard Summerall from Lincoln Public Library District. You were one of the people. You're here?
I see his name, yes.
Okay, thanks, Julia. Sandy West, our board president.
Welcome, everyone. I'm here with you.
And Sarah Zumwalt, Litchfield Public Library District and member of our board. I saw Sarah.
She's right there.
I'm here. How are you?
Okay. And Linda Cates, Director of Operations at our Champaign Hub.
I'm here.
Susan Carr.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, anybody whose name I didn't call.
Hi, this is Jenna Dower from the Smithton Library. I just signed up like 2 minutes ago, so I apologize. I'm here.
Great.
Hi, Ellen. It's Tammy from Chester.
Janet McAllister
from Chester. Was that it?
Yes. Hi.
And this is Esther from Mount Vernon. I signed up this morning.
That's when I signed up.
Anybody else for the good of the order? And Pat Berg, we saw you.
Well, here at the State Library, Deborah Aggert.
And this is Pat Bose.
Pat Berg.
Karen Egan.
Oh. Okay, it's nice to see you all. I think we can kick this meeting off by handing the floor to our Executive Director, Leslie Bednar, and she can give you a system update.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see you all. You can hear me, right? Somebody say yes? Okay, great. It's too bad Troy got off the call because I have a great idea for an enhancement for these meetings now that I'm sitting. Oops, somebody's calling me. Hopefully it'll go to voicemail. All right, so ignore that sound. A neat enhancement, maybe Troy will get back on the line, is because I'm visualizing now while I'm attending at Zoom. I'm trying to figure out, well, geography and remembering where everybody is in the state. It's really neat thinking about where you're all coming from. We just need to work on that, you know, when we're not busy with other things like, as you say, where you're from, the little light goes on. Anyway, I don't know. That might be a down the road thing, but it's really nice to think about how well we're connected today across the state. And I'm hoping all of you got to where you needed to go without going over too many rivers through the woods. So thank you all for joining us. Just a little update from the system. We are actively involved right now this time of year working on our budget proposal to share with our board. It's part of our system area and per capita grant application. There are two primary components in that. It's the budget. Actually, we have several budgets that they're explained differently, and they all have also a budget narrative that accompanies them, as well as an operational plan. That's what it's officially referred to as. We also call it a plan of service that needs to tie directly to that as much as possible to those budgets and budget narratives. That's what we're primarily involved in. I know that our other staff here today will be sharing other things about what's going on with us at the system level. Let's see. Something else I wanted to share with you. I'm sure, well, I want to thank all of you if you attended Member Day for making that a really wonderful experience for our member. And again, I want to thank publicly our two colleagues that are at the ends of the U-shaped table at Olney Public Library, Ellen Poppett and Chris Doughty. They really made it a wonderful experience for our members. And due to a little bit of ingenuity on their part, we were able to make it an almost absolutely free experience for our members and for the system. So woohoo. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda is Chris Doughty, Director of SHARE, with an update.
I think I've been saying this a lot lately, but almost all of the annual agreement forms for fiscal year 18 are now in. There's still a few people I have to bug, but we'll get that done. We have 4 new libraries joining SHARE: Mount Olive School, Ramsey Public Library, Jonesboro Public Library, and Tilden Public Library. The public libraries are joining using Walmart grant funds. So yay for them. I think we had a very successful Polaris upgrade, and we're pleased about that. And I'm pretty sure Brandon is happy that the printer issues are finally slowing down. Slowly but surely, they'll all get resolved. And other than that, things are just moving along.
Any questions for Chris? And please remember, and I didn't say this at the outset, but please remember that we want these meetings to be as interactive as possible. That these were never intended to be us just spouting at people who were participating. It was way more a give and take conversation kind of idea we had, and input from you. So please don't hesitate to ask a question or share an opinion.
And nobody said a word when I said anything about printers, so this is good, right?
Yes. Okay, next in the update section, then, if anybody has anything for Chris, this is the perfect time to share. No pun intended. Okay, Susan, our Director of Operations, Susan Palmer.
Hi. Okay. Well, May 1st, the Champaign office started really providing that functional 5-day-a-week service, which again is, I know I've been saying this probably at every Members Matters meeting, but it's where you have the people who had 4-day-a-week service were moved to 5. If you have less than 4, so you have 3, 2, 1, what we're doing is if we have something, we're going to be stopping at your library and dropping that off. What we have been seeing so far, as this has been implemented for a while in other areas, is that our numbers are increasing, your numbers are increasing, and our numbers are increasing, because I think it's getting the idea that, there's a quicker turnaround. Again, I'll just quickly say I'd love to take credit for all that, but I can't. It's you guys are getting those holds pulled and put out fast. And then we no longer have that third-party delivery company in the middle. So it's us exchanging our own items. So that's nightly we're doing that. So those items that are picked up daily that go to other hubs are being transferred nightly. So that's really huge. We also are developing a driver training program, trying to make sure that we're consistent in the way that the service is handled throughout the 3 hubs. We're doing still the ILDS, which again is that statewide delivery with the addition of the CARLI members, who are those academic libraries who belong to that CARLI consortia. And some of those also, like Sandy's library, belongs also to SHARE. So there's a dual joining there, I guess. So that seems to be going really well. You know, there's always bumps at first and you just kind of keep going and eventually those bumps, they just become flat. So we're at the flat stage, I feel. Maybe I hope I didn't just jinx us. So we have that going on. And then my only other thing is I would like to encourage anyone going to ALA in June 22nd through the 27th. It's going to be in Chicago. So it's not like a flight to San Francisco or something. On the 25th, which is a Sunday, 2:30 to 4, come see Delivery Moves. Now, I don't know if I can get Bob Seger to sing that song, which was, of course, it wasn't Delivery Moves, it was Night Moves, but, you know, delivery, that'd be cute if we had that playing. However, we're presenting with the Laboratory of Applied Spatial Analysis, who are the people out of SIUE, which is Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville. Wow. They looked at our libraries and where we're at, and they were able to provide us with routes, which is how we're able to do this functional 5-day-a-week service, because we're basically in your area anyway. So that's how there's not this huge, massive cost. So they will be there. Mark Hatch from Rails, Reaching Across Illinois Library System, they will be there. He will be there as well, explaining their way of doing delivery. They have both outsourced and in-house delivery to handle their members. And then we also invited Steve Strahl from Mobius, who's out of Missouri. And Mobius, they actually are a smaller consortium that has a few public libraries, but mostly academics, and they're doing interstate delivery, which is a whole nother animal. I can't even, wow. Like, I give him kudos all the time. I can't even imagine trying to coordinate all that. But he's going to share that too. We're having a poster session. Again, come see us June 25th, 2:30 to 4. And a poster session is like, for those of you who may not know, is like a science fair, is how I see it. You know, we're going to have a giant poster, thus poster session, I guess. And we'll have like graphics, so that gets you to asking questions. And what our hope is that we will generate interest in how Illinois does delivery. Amazingly enough, there aren't a lot of states that do it this way. This is wonderful. We're very, very grateful to the Secretary of State's office, Jesse White, for that funding so that we can provide that delivery service to you libraries at no cost, directly to your libraries. Other states, they're charging for that delivery service, and people are having to use part of their budget towards paying for that service. They pay for, you know, anywhere from 2 to 5 days of service. So maybe we will generate some discussion in other states and say, hey, look how great we are, you know. Same with the SHARE, you know, with how many of our members joined that consortium to SHARE too. So that's great. So I guess that's it. Does anyone have any questions for me? Now would be the time. Or shoot me an email. Or not shoot me, but send me an email. That would be great. And I'll respond and see if we've got issues.
This is Sandy at Run Lake. I just have a question about your program development for your training for your drivers. What stage are you at with that? Is it more video or is it more of a manual?
We're going to actually, mainly because everyone learns differently, which we all know, we're going to have some video combined with a manual, kind of listing the steps and what we expect. There will also be where we take them out for road tests every once in a while, and we also are having our managers do ride-alongs so that they'll ride with the driver. You'll see them sometimes, just to make sure that we're doing what we're saying we're doing, you know, and it's just a way to bring that up just a notch. Not that the drivers are doing bad. I don't mean to say that. I think they're doing great, but it never hurts just to check in and to have some sort of formal training.
Yeah, and I know for like the catalogers and the share system, we have 15 hours every year that we put in for our continuing ed. Are you going to initialize something like that for your staff too, like a continuing ed, so maybe they get some updates annually?
That is an absolutely fabulous, wonderful, just got a star note. So thank you. Yes, we'll do this yearly. That is a fabulous idea.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other wonderful ideas out there? I know my staff just loves it when we get all these great ideas. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm next on the docket with anything having to do with membership. Thank you all, every last one of you for completing the annual certification. All our libraries did that. At the end of the day, or at the end of the certification period, 2 libraries were suspended from system for not meeting system membership criteria, statewide membership criteria. And is typically the case. It's almost always because of not having the appropriate staffing. So that was the North Green School District and Our Lady of the Snows Retirement Community. Happily, Belleville Public is taking over the management of Our Lady of the Snows Retirement Community. So that patron base won't be left without service, which is very nice, and hats off to Belleville for taking care of that. This certainly seems to be the networking season. I mean, we've had lots of opportunities, system staff has over the last couple of weeks, to be sort of out in the field with our membership, and it really makes a difference to us, and we're really always happy to do that. So, you know, we had Member Day. We had the Illinois State Library Advisory Committee meeting. Chris and I attended 2 networking meetings last week at Muscuda and at Central Public Library District, which is in Evansville, Illinois, for those of you who don't know. And we had the most circuitous route to get from one library to the other. I'm sure Chris and I have never been on those roads before, and we'll never be on those roads again in our life. But we made it, and you know, it just makes a difference to be in a situation like we are today, or whatever meetings we get to be involved with you, because that's how we know what's going on, and that's how we know what's important. And it's nice to see a face across the table, or even on the screen. It's just nice to be able to connect that way. So we hope to keep doing it, and we're always happy to have the opportunity to do that. Any questions for me about membership related things, or we have a section down below about upcoming events, but anything else I can help with? Any questions? Okay, then I'm going to suggest we alter our agenda a little bit. The IHLS Board of Directors for the last year has really worked hard on an initiative to promote advocacy within the system and on behalf of the system. And since our board president is here and Leslie Bedner's here, I'm going to ask Sandy, and I know she has to duck out early, but if Sandy's still here, if you'd like to talk about that for a minute.
Sure. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak to you. I know I've mentioned this probably at the very first maybe Members Matters meeting that we were starting this initiative. It's hard to believe that's I think we're 8 months into it now. But our goal is really to develop advocacy to support and strengthen IHLS's visibility within communities everywhere within the state of Illinois, not just the ones that are affected with the system and how we are attached to it, but those even further out, so we can make sure that IHLS has a sound voice and will be part of the future going forward. And we've been working on it. And so at this point, we're getting ready for our next meeting, May 4th. So please, anybody who wants to, it's up on the L2, so sign in, and we welcome you to join us and listen to how we go about gathering information and working together. But we are really focused right now on developing some, what I like to initialize them as elevator speeches, something to open up communications with anyone that you would actually meet. We have set aside time already and developed some allies, which we will work towards gaining more allies on our list of who we want to reach out to and who we want to feel could partner with us and help us develop IHLS further on to the future, whether it's financially or just partnering together on projects that coexist with one another, because we may have something that of value that they wouldn't think of as a library system in their own organization. So that's one of our big top goals, is to find those organizations and individuals. So if you all have names or know of people that could be potential allies for IHLS, please let Leslie, Ellen, Chris Doughty, myself know, because we want to make sure that we're getting everyone there. I do want to mention that if you had not had a chance to come to Membership Day, that the O'Fallon school librarian did an excellent job sharing her story on advocacy and how to advocate for yourself and for your, well, for her case, it was a school library that was potentially on the chopping block. And with the amount of advocacy that she did, she got alumni to come in and parents and students current. And they basically, I look at it, she had a seed there that she developed into a plant right in front of everybody. Of course, it was during, Ellen could tell you it was during a nice little stormy weather day, but that spoke volumes, and that library and her staff are all really looking forward to the next year now as the school progresses, because they were able to save themselves that way. So never count yourself out on anything. If you feel like you're in a potential situation, there are people behind you, the system and the board, we're all here behind you all too. So I mentioned the elevator speeches. I'm just kind of looking over my notes. Then some of us also had an opportunity just last week to go to some workshops through Parkland College with Do Good Consulting. And Chris and Ellen can kind of tell you that was kind of very exciting to know that you should really kind of look at yourself and get your goals set and established without jumping too far into things. And when you're talking about advocacy, it's good to make sure that you're not leaving out those that you might think could be your opposition, but your opposition may just end up being a great ally for you also. And to believe in yourself, and maybe take two people, and like I think Laura Huth mentioned it, we all have different perspectives, meaning myself as a board member and even as an academic librarian, then IHLS staff and your personal self as library. So it might benefit yourself, if you're going out into the public to advocate, to take one other person with you so that you both can tell two different sides of a story, but to develop your story well so that you're getting that buy-in and intriguing those people to want to know more about what your feelings are and why you want their support. I think I got all that. Any questions about that? I know that was kind of fast, but again, I do have to duck out here shortly. So any questions about advocacy that you'd like to know about right now? Leslie, anything you want to add?
I do want to, hi, and I do want to say that when we began this initiative as an organization, it came from a very heartfelt place. And yes, we started looking at, it began from within, right? And it started at our second year of operating at a reduced funding level. And the concern from us as staff and as board members is that we would be able to continue to provide services to all of you, our members, in perpetuity. I don't know that that's possible. Nobody knows that that's possible, but we really want to be able to make that, to continue that. And then in tandem with that, we want to be able to, our goal is to provide, like just what Sandy said, is to elevate our members or demonstrate to our members who aren't comfortable with this process just how easy it can be. It's not, going with somebody else is the perfect way. Going with a friend, going with a buddy is the perfect way to approach a legislator or someone at your, at your city level. Because yes, there's power in numbers. If you forget your story, someone else is going to give their story and you don't get yours back. It'll come back to mine. That's the perfect way to do that. And it demonstrates a sincere commitment to that idea or that concept, to that elected official or someone that works for them. And that's what we're about. And that's the second part, or the second phase of this advocacy thing. We haven't forgotten it. And we talked about this last year. We haven't forgotten it. It's just like everything else, it takes a while for us to develop that, given all the other demands on our time. But that is on the horizon for us, and we are starting to push information about that out. And in the coming year, you will see more about that from us. So that's all I wanted to say right now. I do believe Sarah Zumwalt's with us, and she may want to say something as well. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I'm actually finishing up my first year on the IHLS board, and I'm also on the advocacy committee of that. And one thing that I want that's very important to me is that the board is there for you and to know what you need from us. Those of us who used to have all of the continuing education and stuff like that, just know that IHLS cannot do that for you at this point. But we want to know how else we can help you. And getting your patrons to know what IHLS does for them, like whether it's delivery or getting that material as fast as they get it. If you can tell them how hard we work to get that done, and just impress onto them that it's not you and your library, it's everybody working together. We want to make sure that we're there for you and that we do what we can to help out each individual library. From a small library myself, and I know that sometimes we work really, really hard to help our patrons, and we want you to know that IHLS is there to help you guys too. So that's all.
And I can add one more thing too, and on a fun note that kind of underpins some of this advocacy work is that we've also been working on a rebranding project for IHLS. So stay tuned into the beginning of the new fiscal year for maybe a new look, maybe some just new visuals around and things like that will spruce things up and will motivate us all to be good advocates. So it's been an exciting process. Any questions for Sandy, Leslie, Sarah about this effort? Anybody out there able to attend the legislative meetups in the spring, late fall? I think, well, and I might have said this before, and I apologize if I do. The fact that they had one in Mount Vernon was the most exciting thing in the universe for me. That they were right there and they came that far down south was really impressive. So it was very nice. I mean, it was the first time I've been able to go to a legislative day when they were really my representatives, you know, and I could talk to them about neighborhoods I knew.
Yeah.
So, you know, keep involved with advocacy efforts and send that letter or show up when asked to show up, because it certainly does make a difference. Okay.
This is Esther. And I just want to say, I was glad we had one in Mount Vernon too. And being our first one, I was just disappointed that it was in Mount Vernon and they didn't invite Mount Vernon's U.S. representative. They invited our old one, but not our new one since we redistrict, which also covered quite a bit of the state to the east of us. So I was just a little disappointed at that. But other than that, I think they covered everything. It's just our gerrymandering in our area is just crazy enough that, you know, it just kind of zigzags all over the place. And we're in that little cutout that they took away from John Shimkus. And now we have Boston. I don't know. who else? In the state level, I think they missed one of them too. So, but it was a good crowd, and it was very glad to see that we had the numbers we had for our first time.
And we had a good, with the exception of your mission, we had a good turnout of legislators too. That percentage was pretty high of real legislators being there. Esther, have you let ILA know that?
Yeah, I think we talked about it that day. I talked with Bob, and there was another guy there, and we talked. Their new lobbyist now. I don't know his name yet.
It's Derek, isn't it, Leslie?
That's right.
Yeah. I'd even follow up with an email.
Yeah.
Just said, just as long as you have this gentleman's or woman's contact information, post the legislative meetup. Our next topic is the state budget. And I can tell you what I heard at ISLAC was, and I know our friends in Springfield are sitting there, and I'm going to ask them to chime in a minute with anything else they'd like to share. There's no news. There's just no news, and we've been told to budget at an FY15 level, not to do the scenario budgets that we did last year, but just to budget at FY15, and then we'll see what happens when our budget is approved. Is there anything you guys at the State Library would like to add?
No, Ellen, that's correct. We'll let you know if something happens.
Okay. Leslie, would you like to talk at all about system funding?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. So at the system level, I referenced it earlier. Like all of our members, what's going on at the state level has an impact on us at our level, and it certainly has an impact on all of you at your level as well. And we are the system. What do I call this? Last time, what did I call this? The super system, right? I think I said that during the ISLAC meeting. I meant it in a good way, not super huge, but super. We're really good. And we became that super system because of a funding crisis or a funding issue at the state level. And while we're there again, or we're still there, however you want to look at it, for our colleagues within our 3 buildings and the colleagues, all of you members that we have worked with in the last almost 6 years, or 7 years if we count the migration period, sometimes those funding challenges turn out to be a blessing in disguise. Okay, sort of. Blessing in like air quotes, okay? Because when we brought all our 4 regional library systems together, there was a lot of unknowns, and that was a really stressful, intense period for a lot of people, board members and staff members alike. But what it did is create a stronger organization, and we had to look at that organization from the inside out, from the ground up, and start again, and look very closely at what we are about. And in doing that, we were able to see, I think, more clearly the benefit, obviously, of economies of scale when it comes to an automation system. And I know not all of our members, I realize not all of our members participate in that automation consortium, and that's good because variety is the spice of life, and it really works. Whatever works for your patrons best is what we're all about supporting. And we looked at it too with delivering the library materials. It's the same concept. So with Susan Palmer on board, all 3 of our locations are doing things the same way, and all of our members should be receiving the same level of service and the same types of service. And Susan's done wonders with that in bringing that to our member libraries. So here we are now, and we're completing the 2nd year of funding at a reduced level. And I'm like the glass is half full kind of person, not the glass is half empty. So we're funded at 58% level, not We just received a 42% decrease in funding. Yeah, and some days it's harder for me to get that math straight than others. No. But anyway, what it means for us though is how do we look forward? And right now, when there is no budget at the state level, when there's no news about a budget, no concrete news, right? No definite information. We are instructed to budget for the next fiscal year at the fiscal 15 level, which for us would be 100%, and it's basically it's around $3.36 million. That's a lot of money compared to where we are now. When we were funded at that level, we might not have always felt that because there were always things that we wanted to do that we couldn't. Right now, though, that's huge. And if that comes to pass, we'll be very happy. If it doesn't come to pass, hopefully we're prepared to carry on just like we've been carrying on the last 2 years. Because all of you do that every day, and we've been doing it as well. We are looking at initiatives for the next fiscal year as we're working through our budget and our plan of service that are scalable, that will make an impact on our members. But again, we can do those to some degree or another without that they aren't things we're going to have to completely take off the table. That's our goal, is bringing services, okay, not a new service. I should qualify that. It's not a brand new service. They're not brand new services, but bringing programs to our members and working with and helping our members on topics or in subject areas that are helpful to you moving forward. And I can tell you too that at this point in the fiscal year, we've received approximately 1/3 of the $1.9 million that we are allocated to receive this fiscal year. So we are still waiting for the 2/3. There's no doubt that it's agreed that we are going to receive that funding. It's a contract, so we will receive that funding at some point. The question is when. And so in the interim, we're using our reserve fund, our capital reserve fund, which is funding that we have accumulated over the last 6 years, or the first 4 years, I should say, because for 2 years now we've had deficit budgets. We've had that funding available because we've been really cautious about how we've developed budgets and how we've used our resources. So saved for a rainy day, and we're having rainy days, no pun intended. And if you've lived anywhere around any, I'm sure you've all are tired of rain, and guess what's going to rain tomorrow? Oh, and possibly Thursday too. So, but it's because of that, and it's because of this, what we're able to achieve when we work together, that we're here where we are now. And I believe that will serve us all into the future. There is a special board meeting for Illinois Heartland this month. It's May 16th. It's a Tuesday at 5 p.m. At that meeting, the board will be looking at the draft budgets and draft plan of service, as well as draft budget narratives. And then the official board meeting has been changed slightly to April 25th at 5 p.m. So if you're interested in that, at that granular level of what we're talking about, we would love for you to attend. You can attend by VTEL at one of 7 locations, maybe. I'm counting in my head, maybe. Sandy's shaking. Maybe 7. Anyway, I might have that wrong. Several locations. Yeah, several locations. We really do encourage you to participate. We always post our board agendas and as many materials that are available in the packet ahead of time on our website. And I do encourage you to take a look, because if it isn't working for our members, then we need to be looking at it again. Any questions? Ellen, I'm not sure that's where you wanted me to go.
That's perfect, Leslie.
Okay.
You said April 25th. Did you mean May 25th?
I did. Thank you so much, Susan. I turned around and the calendar isn't changed in my office. So it said April, and I said April. May 25th. Thank you.
Any questions for Leslie? Comments, observations? Well, we have a couple other thing, Leslie mentioned the 2 board meeting dates in May. We have a couple other things coming up. One is Phil Lanzini's going to be at the Case Halstead Library in Carlisle on Monday, May 22nd. It will be very similar in format to the event he did last October. This is very generous of Phil to come down and offer to do that. So if you'd like to attend, please register in L2. We'd love to have a full house, and it's a day of hearing Phil is always an informative experience. Susan Palmer talked about ALA, and for those of us in this part of the state, and for those of us in all kinds of budgets, sometimes that seems a little intimidating. But I know that at Member Day, there were vendors who talked about giving free exhibit passes to people. So there are ways to take the train up to Chicago and go to the exhibits and come back home, or drive a car up to a Metrolink station and park the car and take the Metrolink into Chicago and do it. So if it's something you're curious about, just play around and see if you can make it work for you. Certainly the scope of that event is always pretty interesting, and the exhibits are lots of fun. I used to have a colleague who referred to it as trick or treat for librarians, and that's really not too far off. You'll see behavior on the exhibit floor that would just blow your mind as people are standing in line for, an advanced reader's copy by their favorite author, or they need to get an autograph for this person, or this t-shirt is free, and by gum, I need this t-shirt.
I'd like to get to Black Friday for librarians.
Exactly, Black Friday for librarians. Yeah, that's probably, you get your little coupon book and you do all that stuff. If it's something you're interested in, don't write it off because of budget means. There might be ways to make it happen. Also on the calendar coming up is June 20th is our regular board meeting for June, but preceding that will be our annual meeting. That's going to be held at the Carbondale office, which is at the Dunn Richmond Center on the campus of SIU Carbondale. We'd love to have you. It typically is sort of a recap and an overview of the last year's activities, and also the building from June 1st, 2011 to where we are July 1st, 2017. So there's lots of creative people working on making that an enjoyable experience for those attending. And I know the food's going to be good too. That's always important. We know there's going to be good food there. I'd like to back up to Member Day for a minute. We were delighted to have it at the Keller Conference Center. We were delighted the weather held and all those kinds of things. But if any of you have comments you'd like to share or observations you can make, we'd love to hear them, because we want to build this event and make it better each year. And we've gotten a couple comments, and we'd love to hear more if you have any. I know lots of you were there.
I just think the networking and the chance to, sometimes you feel like you're a small librarian and you don't really count, but you do, and I just felt like everybody was equal, and the brainstorming ideas. I came away with a lot of information.
Good.
It's very helpful.
Anybody in Zoom land?
Helen, this is Leslie. I just wanted to share a comment with everyone from the vendors, and I don't even know that I've talked to all of our staff at IHLS about this. The vendors that I met with during that day were thrilled for this opportunity, and I was there obviously thanking them for helping us put it together and make it so reasonable for everyone, because they like these types of events where it's a smaller group of folks. It's not like, and what did you say? Black Friday or Halloween for librarians? It isn't like that, where at the end of the day, they're not going to remember who they talked to, and they can have conversations with their existing clients and hopefully new clients that are much more meaningful, and that they're seeing this now they're starting to see this in other parts of the country, that they really like these smaller group meetings. They prefer those over the bigger conferences. Obviously, there's a cost factor involved because we can tell you that leasing space or renting a booth space at a conference is not a small financial endeavor, but it's more about the connections that they're able to make. So that's just more incentive for us to find you more vendors for the next time. So that's all.
Okay, Ellen, well, everyone.
Yes.
In the Zoom room, Loretta says, this member day was the best one yet, and I found it very informative. Great vendors and presenters. And then Noelle said, I agree with Loretta, was very informative. And I love the lunch totes.
Good. And thank you, all three of you, for those comments. And I can echo what Leslie said. It was the EBSCO vendor who said to me, he said, our offices are in Rockford. He said, we cannot afford to come down and do visits to all the libraries down here, but we can afford to come to this and meet people. So he said it's a wonderful opportunity for him to meet people. Well, those are all. Anybody else? We'd love to hear from you.
This is Annette from Columbia. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just wanted to share what we shared at the Members Day, which is something we put in all the books that are being picked up from delivery. So it would maybe help with people that use that service a lot, that they could use this to advocate a little bit for us too. So it just basically has that fight for libraries at the top, and then it starts with, do you enjoy being able to request and receive library items from all over the state? And then it just goes on into a little more detail, and then we have a link at the bottom where it makes it easy for the patrons to maybe use that and contact their members of Congress. That's all I had.
Annette, have you gotten questions or comments from patrons about that?
We put up the same signage. I took one of the signages that they had at the Members Day, and we put them up on display at a window here on comments that they have of why your library matters. And we heard that a little guy that comes in here, and his whole family has been coming here for quite a few years now, but he's taking some of this to his school, and now they're doing a writing project for that as well. So I'm kind of wondering if he's going to come back here to our library with that, or if they're just going to take it upon themselves to send it onward, you know, from the students.
Very cool. Very, very
So,
cool.
you know, we're trying our best to, you know, advocate for this a lot. So hopefully it works. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's huge. That's wonderful. And it's already extending into your community. Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask my colleagues at the State Library if I heard the news correctly, or anybody else can tell me if I've heard the news correctly, that the stopgap budget that was passed yesterday, the stopgap federal budget, did not cut any of the programs that we were worried about. Is that correct?
That's correct, Ellen. It did not cut at the federal level the current IMLS funds or other funding. So through September this year.
Right. We're just good through September.
Yep.
Okay, I just, you know, sometimes I want to make sure that my ears are working and comprehending it correctly before I repeat it to the whole world.
I think the budget in question, Ellen, is next year, fiscal year 2018.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah. Ellen?
Yeah.
Okay. In the chat room, Elaine is asking, she saw those flyers at the meeting. Are they available on the website to download and print out?
Were those flyers, do you remember, Julia, were those flyers that we created? Or are those things that Annette's created?
She's talking
Yeah.
about the ones Annette created.
No, I don't believe there's a link anywhere for that. I would be happy to somehow coordinate that with somebody, if that would be something somebody would like.
If you'd like to send it to me, I can put that in. I can send that out to the announce list.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that.
And just so everybody's aware, that magic voice who's managing all of us is Julia Pernicka, our communications person. So Julia's manning the Zoom for it, as it were. While we see the State Library folks on the screen, are there any updates you'd like to share with this group?
No, we don't have any updates.
Okay, thank you though. I do have a couple other things to share. One is Directors University is coming up, and that will be held during the first week in June. And, we have somebody in the room who's attending. This is the reboot. This is the sort of recreation of the statewide Public Library Management Institute that the State Library offered for so many years, and all of us across the state felt the absence of it. We just missed it. We missed that training for our library directors. So it was suggested, and this is a very grassroots effort to reboot it, and the event will be held in the traditional time frame, that first week in June. And this is a cooperative effort with the Illinois Library Association, Rails, Heartland, and the Illinois State Library. Graciously, the State Library awarded a $20,000 grant to make this happen, and that was initially quite the concern, that we want to do this, but where's this money going to come from? So that boost from the State Library made a huge difference. I believe there will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 63 to 66 people attending. The IHLS people on the committee include Leslie and I, Amanda McKay, Sarah Zumwalt, Loretta Broomfield from Murfreesboro, and Celeste Schoch from Urbana, and Amanda McKay's from Effingham, Sarah Zumwalt from Litchfield. So it will be fun to be there. It will be fun to see how it happens. Roxana Beneke here from Albion is going to be one of the attendees. And we have a total of 16 from IHLS who are invited to attend. And I think the people with whom I've spoken are excited. The events will be held at the Illinois State Library with people staying at the State House Inn, which is just around the corner from the State Library. So that will make it very, very, very easy. Any questions about that?
This is Annette at Columbia. I'm going to be attending that as well, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. Is there going to be a list maybe somewhere of people that could carpool from our areas, or? Yes, okay.
Well, I know once we hear the people that have finally committed to attending, who sent a letter, an RSVP back, saying they're attending, that's easy information to share with all of you in that.
Okay, thank you.
Just remind me.
I will, thank you. Okay.
Don't forget to do that.
All righty, thanks.
Another statewide initiative that's ongoing, but not at the implementation stage yet, is the Illinois Library Leadership Institute. And again, that's the reimagining of the Synergy program that the State Library did for a number of years. And that probably is targeted for sometime next year. Committees are working on it. They're looking for funding. They're looking for all those things. The one big change in the event for next year is that previously, in previous iterations, that was only ever offered to people with masters in library service. So they've opened it up this year, and it's a more inclusive pool of people that they're looking at. So it is for people in leadership positions in libraries. It's not necessarily that one piece of paper that would allow you to attend. So think about people, and I think this is one opportunity to really think outside the box too. Think about people who display leadership potential and where a little TLC and mentoring might take them. I think that's how I look at people I consider for attending this. And so stay tuned for information about that. Any questions about any of that so far? Okay, we've said, we've had a couple things come up, and Leslie alluded to it before. One of the questions that we'd like to kind of throw out on the floor for discussion, Leslie talked about this state budget situation. And I think what we'd like to talk about a little bit with all of you is to get input from you as far as how this is impacting your library and how this might be impacting your community. Do you see services threatened? Have things closed? If your funding is less than it was before, how are you addressing that? Am I asking that question correctly, Leslie? Yep, she said yes, I think.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had a phone call to take. And first, really quickly, it was related to, isn't this a funny way how we connect with everybody? Susan, would you step out of your room and
oh, sure,
take your phone call? Okay.
Oh,
and yes, that is how we wanted to. That's how we wanted to phrase it. Yes, it wasn't for me. Nobody goes for me. They call for Leslie Savajuk, or they call for somebody else, and it was for Susan. Yes, that's exactly what we want to know. How it impacts all of you and how you handle it, because you all have great ideas of how to handle things.
I think with our library, it's kind of like a cloud, the state budget's like a cloud hanging over our heads. But I feel like our community has stepped up, and we have gotten some funding that we had lost, and we have been given that funding back in small portion, but still better than nothing. So I think our community has backed us a little bit, knowing that we may have some issues with the state budget as it is.
Judy, was that from foundations? Was that from individual donors?
Actually, one was a foundation grant, and then also the city itself.
Oh, nice.
So we feel very fortunate with that. We feel like they're doing their best to help us keep our doors open.
Okay.
Anybody? Felicia, anything in El Dorado?
I mean, same as what she said, just kind of it's a cloud hanging over us. We don't quite know. I don't see anything yet aside from like our per capita grants, things like that, just being less, but we're just trying to get ready in case something happens,
What about, and I'm not putting you on the spot, I'm just envisioning, what about in Saline County? I mean, has the state budget crisis impacted the county, the community?
I haven't been able to attend as many community-wide meetings as I normally would like to, but I know like Waddy and
which is a mothers and child support service, right?
Right. Especially low-income families, things like that, and not just that. They also help with LIHEAP and things like that. I know that they have been getting hit pretty hard, and I don't know exactly what it is, but we have seen like an increase in people coming in again needing job and resume help and computer help, and it would be nice to be able to offer computer classes again. That's something we did have a few years ago through the state. We had a grant for computer classes, through DCEO, and then like 3 months before it was scheduled to end, we lost it because didn't have funding, no budget. So, and since then, if there's been anything like that offered, I haven't seen it, so, and I know that we get a lot of people asking, when are you going to offer computer classes again? I really learned a lot from that. Or I have a parent that would really benefit from that. We do offer one-on-one book a librarian programs with us, but you know, with that class, we were able to hire somebody to come in and donate their, you know, focus their whole time on that class specifically. So, yeah, I mean, in a way, not seeing as many grants offered, that's been a big thing, that not just us, I think everywhere.
Right.
And it would be nice to see some more grants offered again. That's something I've had to tell my board at different meetings. You know, I look for grants and there are some on a national level, but as far as, you know, focused here in state, they're few and far between. So, yeah.
How about in Zoom land? Can anybody speak to their libraries in this state of budget unknowns or their community? And I think what Felicia said about her community was pretty telling too, that more people are coming in for the jobs and the resumes. You know, if support services that are offered in the community dwindle, then what does that mean? What's the library asked to do or pick up? Or are people spending more time just in the library because it is a place to be? Esther?
I was just going to say, I know in our area, and it's kind of a subject that doesn't get really talked about as much as like the cut in the federal funding, but I think it was at the meetups that they were talking about, you know, the tax cap issues at the state legislative level. And I know that we're in a tax capped county to begin with, and now they're talking about tax freezes, property taxes. And I think that's something that we kind, I don't know, maybe gets kind of forgotten in the bigger push from all sides for that federal money. But for us, and I know most everybody here, that's just a small portion compared to what we get based on our property taxes, because we are in that area where the majority of our funding is those property tax bases that we're part of. And that talk of a even 2 or 3 year freeze, but you know, they start talking about a permanent one. I think that's a something when we're talking about advocacy, we need to maybe talk about a little more in our local areas for our local legislators, because that's I think our big concern, because you know, we're of a size that, you know, and we're a district library, so you know, our funding's pretty stable, but to see that freeze, but costs still keep going up, it's then you start talking about more trouble down the road.
I agree.
That's a good point.
That's the biggest cloud hanging over my head. I know that.
A tax freeze.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're home rule, so the amount of
Tell them where you're from.
Oh, Flora Public Library, Donna Corey. We're home rule, so we don't do a levy. We ask the city for a certain amount of money for our budget. And over the years, home rule, if they increase the overall levy for the city by over 5%, I think it is, they had to go referendum. So to keep from giving us more real estate taxes and pushing that up, they've supplemented about half of our budget comes from state income tax now. So that is a big, 2 years ago, we had a big scare that we might lose like 25% of our budget.
Wow.
So we only lost 10% actually, but they're talking that again now. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out.
But I agree with Esther, more advocacy towards the property tax freeze for something informational to give to our patrons. I went to, this has been a month ago now almost, but I went to a dinner my sister-in-law just randomly invited me to, and sat down, and he was a pastor from a local church. And that was, it was like a 5-course Italian dinner, 2 hours. I was curious just to see what it was about. I was like, 5 courses, what's this? And so we went there, and he asked me the whole time. When he found out I was a librarian, he was fascinated. And I think he had no real idea what libraries did and how they ran. Mm-hmm. And I guess I educated him because he left there and I talked about the property tax freeze and, you know, what it would mean for not just our library, but all libraries, and how it's not, you know, it would just be more of a way for them to say just, hey, we did this property tax freeze. It's not going to really do any good other than that. So why have it, you know? And he just, I'm going to find out more about that. So sometimes just talking to people, you know, and letting them know. Of course, the ones that are just dead set against it are probably going to just be dead set against it. But, you know, using that information, if there can be any more given to us to use when we talk to people in our communities, even if we go and talk to like our Rotary or a Lions Club, I think that'd be a great idea to get community leaders' ears and talk to them about the property tax freeze.
I'm not sure. Maybe Chris would look it up for us. Is the property tax freeze on ILA's POM card? And it's under advocacy on ILA's website. It might be. And those POM cards are really easy to just pass out and hand to somebody. And Felicia just gave us the perfect example of why we all need an elevator speech, because you never know who you're going to sit next to at a 5-course Italian dinner.
That you randomly get
Don't want
invited
to know
to.
about what you do. You know, and you have to be ready to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be knowledgeable enough to bring up the legislative issues is really good.
And I think I think this is one of those issues that you can really get together with your other local governmental bodies, because they're going to be just as affected as we are. This money doesn't help the state out. You know, it funds the county, it funds the libraries, it funds school districts. You know, it's kind of one of those that you may have people that are, you know, may not support the libraries much, but hey, this is, you know, we're all in this boat together. Maybe we can work together and then, you know, start building some of those relationships with people who don't know what the library does and how we work and what we provide and that sort of thing. So it's a great opportunity for that.
And Chris just verified that the tax freeze issue is on the ILA's POM card. So even, you know, sticking one in your folder that you could refer to when you need it would be a good thing. Anybody in Zoomland want to talk about their communities and how you're dealing with it? We've got Salem County down here. We've got Clay County. We've got Richland.
Mm-hmm.
Richland County. Any other parts of the state? Because in Jefferson County. So we do want to have a big picture. Anybody want to talk about what's going on? Bobby, are you still there? Or Susan McKinney?
Well, I've been under tax caps for over 10 years, so this is nothing new for me. And I guess maybe I come at this a little differently than some of you. A lot of people in my town have problems even making ends meet. So I have a hard time sitting here telling them that I want to raise their taxes or that we need to raise more money in Springfield off of them to pay for me. You know, we've got over 55 families in my community that use the community food pantry because they can't even make enough money to buy food for their family or to pay their bills. So I come at this a little differently. What are we going to do about Springfield with their spending? Where are they going? Okay, I guess I come at it. Where are they going to cut the money from other areas to give us the money? I think we need to look at this big picture. Our state is in drastic problems, and I think they're going to have to do drastic cuts across the board. And I hate to say that as a librarian, but I'm sitting here going, I don't feel comfortable asking my community for more money. So where are they going to cut the budget elsewhere to pay us? Can someone answer that?
Well, hopefully the people across the street from the state library might come up with some answers, Susan.
I'm sorry, there was multiple people talking. I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I was only going to comment that hopefully the men and women across the street from the state library might eventually step up and address that. I mean, that's what we're all waiting for.
That's why I'm asking. We keep saying we want to talk to Congress about where giving us more money. Where are we going to ask them to cut the budget to give us that money? We have to be able to give them some idea of a solution, because let's be blunt, those people obviously have their heads shoved in the sand or elsewhere because they don't want to cut budgets anywhere, including their own staff, to make this budget balance. Nobody wants to give up money because money's power. I'm sorry if I'm being the uncomfortable elephant in the room, but it's hard when I have people who can't even afford to feed their families. I can't ask them for more tax money.
Well, and I don't think it's in the property tax situation. One,
but that is for me. I'm property tax only.
But what we're saying is that, you know, it's not something that's going to go to the state. That's money that stays in your local governments, but the state's trying to take that over. It's not saying, oh, we need to have more money, but the state using that is the issue to make themselves look like they are doing something when they're really not, because no, they're not cutting anything. And they're making it look like they're helping people with their taxes, but this isn't going to do anything. I mean, it will keep them where they're at, but it does nothing on exactly as you say on their end. What are they going to cut? Well, they're still not. So, and it's something that doesn't add to their coffers anyway. So it's just one of those weird.
And even worse is we have a county board who keeps trying to find ways to take more of like the township's money and the village's money for their own coffers. We had an initiative here in Champaign where they were wanting to create an executive officer office fully staffed out of the county board, which meant that would be another like 6 figures added into the county board's budget to fund an executive officer. So it's not just state government now. We're looking, even local governments are pulling these kind of shenanigans. Yeah. So where do we fight? What do we do?
It's a tough question.
And I guess that's where I feel like if we're going to talk to the legislators, we need to be able to throw at them, well, why don't you cut this budget? Why don't you do this? Why don't you cut your own staff? Why don't you cut your salary? You know, you're asking us to cut our salaries. And I know that's adversarial, but I think it's going to take some tough answers and tough questions like that to get people to motivate off of their butts.
Susan, has that number of families that need like community food pantry assistance, has that gone up in the last couple of years?
Yeah, about 10 to 20 families.
Yeah. That's significant.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not a big town. I'm only a town of about 3,000, but 50 people needing food assistance to make their ends meet is kind of scary. I mean, it's not a huge percentage, but it's still a percentage.
It's a percentage in a small town, so it is meaningful. Anybody else want to talk about the budget environment? Or if you have an answer for Susan, that would be great. I don't know if we do. Okay, then I'm going to move on to another topic. And when we were talking about topics for the day and things we'd like to discuss and things really we wanted input on, one of the things that came up was personnel policies and patron policies. And we talked about this a little bit more or previously in another members matter meeting, but Chris and I sat in on a really interesting discussion last week in Muscuda about policies for staff and cell phone usage. And it was kind of all around the table and everybody had a different opinion. So we thought we'd throw out on the table today, like, what kind of personnel or patron policies have you recently implemented if you have, or revised if you have? At our board meeting last week, there was a revision of our policy on the hiring and firing practices and the relationship between the executive director and the board. So we know policies are always in flux, and we know, like that cell phone policy came right out of today's technology and how we're communicating and that kind of thing. So does anybody have anything interesting they'd like to share on that end?
I guess maybe I'm probably one of the more lenient bosses in a library. I've told my staff, because I also, with everything that's happened with my family in Indiana, my mother, I have my phone set to vibrate or soft, but as long as they don't ignore patrons, I don't care if they have to deal with a personal call. We've had staff members say, I need to go outside and make this personal call. And I'm like, fine, go ahead. There's someone covering the desk. So as long as we aren't ignoring patrons, I have no problem. I have stood there while a patron took a call on a cell phone, and I didn't talk to them, and I dealt with somebody around them while they were on their cell phone, and they kind of looked at me and I said, when you're off your phone, I'll deal with you. But that's what our local postmaster does. Our local postmaster, if your phone rings, I'll take care of you after you're off the phone, and she turns to the next person in line.
That's basically how we handle it too. It's kind of, we use the guideline of how do you handle personal calls in general. I mean, back from the, pre-cell phone, pre-email, that sort of thing. How did you handle, could your staff take calls at work? What were the guidelines? And so we kind of base it on that. And again, it's like, okay, if you're going to have your phone, have it on silent. Yeah, don't answer it while you're talking to a patron. That sort of, just standard politeness is a good place to start. We do have staff that at times is like, okay, you're done texting. You've been texting for too much time. I think we have more trouble with that than actually talking on the phone. So there's kind of a two-prong issue when you're dealing with the cell phones, because then you got the texters or the ones doing instant messaging and that sort of thing, and those who actually are talking. But we really haven't had any major problems, and so that's how we.
And only with our staff, I just don't see a need for them to carry their phone around with them in their pocket or whatever. They can have it at their desk or whatever and check it. And we do just ask that if they have to make a call or accept a call, that they do it where patrons don't see them. Do it, step back in the staff room or something, unless it's an emergency. If it's bad enough, I think they're going to call the library itself, the person will. So, and that's worked real well for us.
That was a lot of the discussion last week as far as like phones in staff areas. Yeah. And we were in the Muscuda Public Library, where they have almost like you do here, a very common staff area. So if a phone's on a desk and it vibrates or it rings, another staff member will hear it and can go say,
right,
Judy, a call has just come in. But cell phones are only one example of policies we have that deal with personnel or patrons. Anybody else have anything that they've been working on or
Ellen?
Concerned about? Yeah.
Okay, this is Julia. Loretta said we did not have a cell phone or social media policy until about 1.5 years ago. It started being a problem, so I wrote one and the board approved it. I do allow cell phone use, but they have to take it to the staff room, not at the desk. And Mary Brewster said, what about texting while working? And Loretta said, the real problem we ran into was social media.
And Julia, if you type back to Loretta, I guess a question would be, I'm guessing she's meaning people checking a Twitter account or a Facebook account during work. I would think that's what she means. At ILA this year, is that what she means?
Yes.
Okay. At ILA last year, I attended a session that was done by the law firm of Ansel Blank. And if any of you get the municipal minute from their law firm, it's little legal notes that they send out every day. And the attorney that I've seen the most deal with libraries is a woman by the name of Julie Tappendorf. And she did a session at ILA on your library and social media. And she also talked about the legal rights and responsibilities of libraries and staff members. And I think that handout is still on ILA's website. And if I find it, I can send it to you. But it was very helpful, very, very eye-opening as far as what people could or couldn't do, what people should or shouldn't say, all those kinds of things. It was a very, very good session. Well, Loretta brought up social media. How about the rest of you? Is that, Esther, is that an issue for you guys?
Not as much. It was in the past. I think when it was kind of, everybody was first getting Facebook. Everybody was on Facebook. We had a while, this probably five years ago, the games, everybody had to do Farmville. Oh, I got to check my vegetables. To kind of put a kibosh on that. But it really hasn't been a huge problem since then. So
that's yeah. I will try and find that Ansel Blank handout because it was very good and very helpful as far as on the flip side of that, Sandy mentioned the workshops we had attended that were done by Do Good Consulting is the name of the firm. And this, I never pronounced her last name right, Laura Huth. And she's from the Champaign area, I believe. Mm-hmm. And we've gone to her workshops in Springfield and in Champaign. They are very, very good and they are very, very affordable. I think one set of workshops we went to were for free and the other set were $29 a session. But she does things like, and this is the flip side, she does things like how to present your agency on social media, how to write a good fundraising letter. She did a photography session, how to take pictures that you can use to promote your library. So if you go to that Do Good Consulting, you can look at her schedule and see when she might be popping up again, because obviously that's, for us, that's drivable and it's affordable. So that's another thing to look at.
Ellen?
Anybody else? Yeah.
Okay. Chris says, I have no issue with my staff checking social media while they are working. It helps everyone keep up with the news, events, and if they come across a good article, we'll share it via the official library account. I did want to say if somebody went out and Googled Municipal Minute and then social media use, you can easily find from April 26th, their article, it's ABA Journal article on public employee use of social media. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about or not. And I put that in the chat room.
Thanks, Julia. It's probably an article that they did that's very similar to what they presented at ILA, I would guess. And the point about that, that's a valid point. And I don't know where to draw the appropriateness line, because so many of our libraries have social media sites, and so you are getting that information, and you are getting articles and all those kinds of things. I don't know what the line of appropriate use is, but we'll leave that to Ansel Blank and they can direct us. Anybody else? Cell phones, social media, personnel, patrons? Okay, then we're going to move to the round robin section. And this is just to share what's going on at your library or anything that's happened recently. And I'm going to call on Judy Whitaker first because she told us about something really cool they did in Olney 2 Sundays ago. So Judy.
Well, actually, the idea came from one of our board members, and to do something with grandparents and grandchildren. So we picked a Sunday afternoon, not close to Grandparents' Day, just make this totally different, and we call it a Grand's Outing. And we invited grandparents and their grandchildren, great-grandchildren, adoptive grandparents, whatever, to come. And we had a time when they could play board games together, read together. We had balloon twisting, face painting, we decorated cookies, and we had over 200 people.
Wow.
We were amazed. We had a great time. No tears. Everybody did fine. We didn't run out of cookies. Maybe a little patience once in a while. But it was our first, and I hope this was going to call it our first annual event. It was wonderful. Not a very hard thing to do, not an expensive program, but it was one person commented, this was nice because it was an event that didn't include mom and dad, but it included grandparents and grandkids. So we really enjoyed it, and we hope everybody else did.
And that was Judy Whitaker from Olney, if anybody wants any more information. And from social media, I know that Donna's having an author event, right?
Yes, on May 20th, we're having actually our first author's fair. We've had a lot of book signings over the years, but this is our first author's fair, and we have 14 local authors signed up for it so far. I just put started the publicity yesterday and put sort of a spotlight of each one on our social media, our Facebook page. And so we're kind of going, learning as we go, I guess you would say. So we're kind of excited about it. Also, something we're doing in our library is Cargill Cares gave us a fairly large donation, and we feel a need to do more programming in our library. So, well, given our budget restrictions. And so we're doing something called the Amazing Americans History Series, and we're going to have 6 programs, and we're going to have people come, and one's enacts Ben Franklin and George Washington. One man does a presentation on the War of 1812, Mark Twain. And so we have 6 of those lined up, and we're getting those taken. We're ready to do the publicity on those too. The only other thing is we did get a mini grant to do lighting upgrade to LEDs above the circuit desk. And nice. That was sort of a necessity because the library is now 23 years old. It's hard to believe, but you can't get the parts for them anymore. So we're upgrading to LED. So.
Did you ever get up?
No, I didn't. I wish we do not have anywhere in our library to have a program. Or we have a back room that is like 10 by 10. We since I started there, which I've only been there like 8 months. So we did start a We Reads program because they didn't have anything for the little bitty kids, but they barely fit in there. So then when they do story hour, apparently the church across the street lends their space for story hour. So that's going to be, we are the oldest library in Illinois. And we're actually older than the building we're in, and the building was built in 1846. So of course it's not ADA compliant.
Remind them where you're from.
Oh, Albion, no, in Edwards County. But they are putting a new walkway up to the front that is going to be a ramp, but it's still not exactly ADA compliant. And we don't have to be because we're a historical building. But there was speaking of, you talked about getting your city council and everything on your side. There was a huge feud about whether to make the sidewalk brick or concrete. The library board won, and it's going to be brick, but they're paying the difference to make it brick. But apparently that was the historic original way that it was. So that's really the only new thing we have coming. But I think it will actually bring in a lot of people just wanting to come and see what it looks like. Sure. We did have a lady donate. She wanted to donate a granite bench for our yard, which we don't really have. But we have a nice big back porch that had this very old porch swing. So we got her to replace our porch swing.
Oh, nice.
And there's certain things, that the town is really, they're very historic oriented and they like to keep things the same. Yeah, so I think we'll get a lot of people coming in just to see the new stuff, and people that would never come in the library, and maybe we can hook them in that way.
How about in El Dorado or Norris City?
El Dorado right now, I mean, we have programs going on all the time. There's no special programs. We just, we've noticed an increase in our movie nights that we offer. We usually try to show 2 a month, depending on what's coming out. We try to get the newest that's out. And have one that's focused towards kids and families, and then one that's focused towards teens and adults. And our friends group pays for our movie licensing agreement, so we're able to have that. But we've been in the planning stages for our summer reading program, and we're trying to switch it up. Miriam, who's been there, this will be Miriam's 40th year.
Wow.
So we're hoping to do something for her. But she's the one that's always kind of helmed the library program, the summer reading program. But she and I have been talking about ways to change different things up, maybe not do a complete overhaul and keep some things familiar, but instead of doing reading logs, do reading bingo to get your name in for a prize. We feel like that might be a more of a way to challenge them, but also they might see it as a more fun way to, read things. And if there's some that, we're willing to haggle with them on certain things. If say, I don't read comic books and it's saying read a graphic novel, well then let's say just read a chapter book or something, and kind of trying to figure out a different way to do our prizes and things. So if anybody has any suggestions on different ways you've ran your summer reading program, I'd love to hear them. We may not use them this year, but it'll be a good thing to tuck away for future years. But yeah, 40 years for Miriam. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Come July, I think.
Wow.
So.
Well, I'd like to say on the author showcase is, I believe Katie Newton-Noss is coming.
Yes.
She is one of our local teachers. And she also was.
We're from Norris City.
Yes, they have a Norris City bookshelf. We had 6 of them come to the library on the 20th of April, and they are really great networkers. They have networked, and they're their own support system. But Katie recently, which I was really proud, she received the award for, it's a YA book, Healing Rain, and it's the Small Christian Publisher. And but she and one of the other ladies that live in town that's a local author, they are forming their own publishing company.
Good for them.
So I think that's, really amazing. We've got several from our little town, which I thought is kind of cool. I know some people are not, like local authors, they kind of sometimes, I'm not really sure. It may just be family that, visits, but you never know what people are going to do. Somebody's got to start somewhere. So our library, I think, has been a good spot for them to meet, and it's been a good spot for them to connect, and they've really done an awesome job. So, we were really, and one of the books, well, actually 2 of her books, maybe 3, because she's getting another one coming out. He's a local student that he's now at USI, and his name is Logan Tharp, and he did art class for us. And he did 9 weeks and broke over Christmas break, came back and did it again. And we had probably a good 15 that would attend. He did it free. At first we ended up paying him because he was in class. He would drive, like right when he got finished and come straight to the library. And he was there a good hour and a half or so. So he did an awesome job.
There was a lot of interest from the junior high students.
Yes, we had a lot of interest. And we had, we started out with maybe children that were 5th grade and up, but we even had some 2nd and 3rd grades at age that showed up that were just as, well-behaved, ready to draw.
And when you talk about your library advocates too, you think of a group of writers who started out with their base as the library.
Right.
Well, who's going to speak to your impact?
And they have been wonderful because they're vocal.
Yeah.
They are very, it's tied in with our village newspaper because 2 of them are illustrating on some of the books. It's tied in with the high school. It's tied in from previous students. So it's really been a community, effort, but they have been supportive of us at the library. But we've opened the door for them, which I think is we should do.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
I think it's really something pretty cool
absolutely.
for a little bitty small town. Actually, a village. So.
But it also proves the worth of small communities. You know, it does say that small communities can achieve things. Anybody else out there want to share for the good of the order what's going on at their library?
This is Susan. We had a gentleman approach us back in November about holding a chess meetup once a month at our library, and he's been doing it once a month, and initially it just started off to be him and one other gentleman. Well, they had a third person show up last night. So, and I do use Facebook to advertise this kind of stuff. We have a page for just St. Joseph, Illinois, and I share our events on the page, you know, the week before. We still are doing weekly coloring time for the adults, and we're gearing up for our summer reading program. And 2 years ago, when the theme was music, we started free concerts on the lawn every Friday night with local talent volunteering to do the concerts. And I've actually, because it's the third year we're going to be doing it, I actually now have people approaching me about, is there a way I can get on your schedule? Is there a way I can perform out on the lawn? So, and people seem to really enjoy it. The south side of the library at 5:30 on a Friday afternoon is starting to be in shade from the sun going down, so it's not real hot. And we've had, last year I had a young man who's only like 10 years old and plays drums. His parents are his roadies, and he sings. And he was so cute because he played his heart out and he forgot his gloves, and his parents didn't go home to get his gloves, and he had blisters on his hands after an hour of playing. But he was excited. He told me he can't wait to do it again this summer, and he wants to do 2 concerts this summer. So it's a way to help other people in the community. You know, that I'm in a very sports-oriented community, so allowing other people with other kinds of talents a chance to showcase their talents, even if people are just driving by and see it, it's still something, you know.
Susan, and I'm guessing all kinds of music, right?
Yes, we have anywhere from, we have an older couple who actually performs semi-professionally, and they tend to do more gospel, country western. A music minister from one of the local churches does some Christian, but he's a 90s kind of alternative, so you'll hear Taylor Swift, followed by Michael W. Smith with his concert. It's kind of an interesting mix. We had, like I said, the young man that played drums, a lot of his was mostly like 80s rock or 90s rock classics. So it is a big mix. And it's interesting to see what people want to do. We even had our local dance studio signed up, and their little girls from ages 3 to 10 did a dance recital as one of the Friday concerts. So
that's really fun. Julia, hi Bobby. Julia, is there anybody on the phone, on the chat who wants to say anything about what's going on?
Okay, Loretta says, something just popped up in front of this. We are doing a community-wide book club tied to the eclipse and would love it to be a regional book club if any of you are interested. It's called American Eclipse, Reading in the Shadow, based on the soon-to-be published book by David Barone. It's out in June. Barone is coming to Murfreesboro to do a presentation and book signing. That's the kickoff event for the community read. First time we've done anything like this, and we have partnered with SIU's Morris Library, the John A. Logan Museum, and the Astronomical Association of Southern Illinois. She's excited about it. Just wrapped up an 8-week Art Hive series where SIU art ed students came to the library with high quality art supplies and taught basic art techniques to people of all ages. Then they had an exhibit of the art. It was mostly kids, but also a few adults and high school students. Arts and crafts are always popular at her library. And okay, I think that's it on that.
Loretta, is that, I think Julia said Robert Barone, is he an Illinois author?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to know how available he might be to go other places. Anybody else want to share? Bobby, anything going on at your library?
Well, our children's librarian did a program in March called Messy Mondays. And each Monday, kids of all ages were invited to come to the library and do some kind of project to decorate the children's room. We have huge murals now and all kinds of neat things, and they were very well attended. So she's doing it again in May. And last night she had a coffee claymation program where she made clay out of coffee grounds, and she was expecting about 15 kids. We got 40.
Wow.
We're very excited about how well that's going. And we're doing something new with our summer reading club. We've never had anything for preschool kids before, so this will be the first year that 3, 4, and 5-year-olds will have their own separate summer reading club. It was something our patrons started asking for. So we're excited to see how that will go. And for our adults and teens, we do the same reading club for them. We're doing the theme of heroes versus villains. And we actually will have a bracket of different heroes and different villains from literature. And the patrons, as they read books, will get to pick a team if they want to be team hero, team villain. And every time you read a book, you get to vote. And there's going to be prizes for whichever team wins. So we're pretty excited about that, trying something new. I think that's all we've got going on right now.
Thanks. Esther, Annette, anything for the good of the order?
Not much other than the regular summer reading, regular programs, the fun stuff.
Annette, how about Columbia? Anything going on?
Yeah, we're underway as well, getting things planned for a summer reading program. We just hired a new assistant director and a community engagement coordinator. So she's been working really hard at promoting some teen programs. We got bulletin boards up at the high school, the middle school. I'll be going out talking to the schools next week during library time, or I'm sorry, May 15th week, right before school's out. And we take a PowerPoint presentation and we just talk about the library, some of the things we've had, some pictures of like last year's summer reading program. We put out a lot of gift baskets and such for the teens and the adults. And then for the kiddos, the younger ones, we usually just buy a bunch of different type of prizes. Bigger things. We don't get the little things from Oriental Trading anymore like we used to do. So we just buy bigger things. And for every 10 hours of reading, they get a goodie bag with all these tickets in it for a chance to put them in for these drawings. And then not too long ago, I guess about a month ago, we had a historian come and do a presentation. And that went over so well that we're going to do another panel discussion with about 3 others from the community that are, you know, most of them are in their 80s, but they had such a good time talking about Columbia, things that were, and just that fun time with them. We had a lot of people attend that, and I think we're going to do that again at the end of June. But yeah, that's about it. Same as everybody else, working on summer reading and, you know, trying some, you know, new things and hoping to get a good turnout this summer. But yeah, our school visits go over really well. So that's about it.
That's great. Anything else for the good of the order? I have about 3:45 and I've gotten through my agenda. So if anybody else has anything they'd like to share, questions?
Okay, Ellen.
Yes.
This is Julia. Kim Keller says, just an idea for you. We are seeing a lot of interest in our Domino Thursdays that we host in the afternoon. We have a loyal group of domino players. We provide water and coffee. They've started bringing their own treats. We get donations for prizes. We've been doing this for a couple of years and we are seeing some success.
That sounds like fun. I like a good game of dominoes as much as anybody else. Anybody, I will tell you, our next Members Matter meeting will be held the first Tuesday in July. And it will be at the Decatur Public Library, and it will be at 10 o'clock in the morning. We've tried to rotate these from morning and afternoon to try and meet people's schedules. So we'll see how that works. And then once we've done the Decatur one, we'll have 7 under our belt, I believe. And then we'll work on a schedule for the upcoming.
Ellen, this is Susan. Isn't the first Tuesday in July the 4th?
Well, you know, as soon as I said that, Susan, I started to worry about that.
July 11th.
Let me look.
I guess I wrote that down and I copied it from something else.
What do you have down, July 11th? Okay, then we're the 11th of July. Thanks, Susan. I had it in my head that we were so committed to these dates by gum, we were going to do them wherever they were and wherever it came. But I think the 4th of July is certainly one we need to stay clear of. We surprised ourselves, I think, with the 3rd of January this year. So, you know, we'll have some more information going in and planning dates for next year. But that being said, thank you all for coming. Leslie, any parting information, comments?
No, good meeting. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And we hopefully to see you in July. Annette and Roxanne, you can come back and tell us about Directors University. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All righty. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.